Good morning. Well, Pastor Josh asked me to give my testimony, and so I know some of you have heard it before, so I apologize if you're hearing it for a second time. I know it's not that exciting; it's not worth a second. How much time you need left to preach? Like 5 minutes? Is that 10? Okay, just kidding. Don't. Oh, how many live streamers did we just lose? We lost them all. Okay, just kidding. Anyway, so yeah, it's interesting to me to look back at my life. I suppose if you were raised in the church, maybe you don't know what it's like to come to Christ as an adult. I guess statistically that's not very common. I was in my 20s, and I was a good person. You could just ask me, I would tell you. I was a good person. And I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't do any drugs. I had a good job. I bought a house in my 20s. Things were great. But I just didn't really feel like things were great. I just felt like something was missing, and I couldn't explain it. I was happy, but I don't know, maybe I was just empty. You know, I've heard people describe this God-shaped hole that we have. I didn't know that's what it was. I really didn't know. But I remember that I had a few coworkers who were a good influence on me. They didn't say a lot. They didn't preach at me. They didn't try to tell me that I was going to hell, I was going to burn. They didn't do anything like that. They just said, well, you know, there's really only one way to get into heaven. And I was like, yeah, you know, you just obey the 10 Commandments and be a good person. And yeah, that's the way that works. I've watched lots of movies. That's how it works. And no, it's really more about Jesus. And I was like, oh, okay. But I didn't really want to ask because it's kind of embarrassing if you don't understand it, right? So one day I lived nearby. I lived in Kenmore, and one day I was driving by this church, and my parents went to this church before they were divorced. And I went to this church, and I remember Marion, and I remember Ruby Thompson, and I remembered Dallas, and I remembered Eloise, and I remembered a few friendly faces from this church. And I decided I was going to go to church. And then I didn't. And then I later just said, no, I'm really going to do this. I'm really going to do this. So I parked my truck. I parked my truck on one of those little side spots. I don't know if there's some that are kind of like parallel parking. They're great because you can get out fast, right? So I picked one of those, and I waited until 10:44. Back then, church started at 10:45. I waited till 10:44 because then I could just slip in the door and sit in the back, right? That's what you do when you're visiting a church. That's the protocol, I think. So I stepped in the door, and there was Edna Parsons, who does not let you slip in the door and slide in and sit in the back. She said, hello, good morning. And I said, good morning. She said, what's your name? I said, Randy. She said, Randy, what's your last name? And I said, Eppinger. And she said, how's your brother Chip and your sister Janet? 20 years. We had not set foot in this church for 20 years. I just gaped at her. She sat with me. She made me sing. Not really, but she encouraged me. And I slipped out the back, and I thought, well, what just happened? What just happened? I just wanted to sneak in and hear a sermon and see what it meant. I don't remember anything about the sermon. I'm sure it was Pastor Jim. I don't remember anything about it. But I do remember Edna. I do remember that she cared enough to, I don't know, she must have been 80 at the time. I don't know. She was elderly, and she remembered 20 years. She also gave me cookies. I remember the cookies. In fact, I remember thinking that I should put on a hat and grow a beard and see if I could come back again and get cookies again. She probably would have recognized me, though. She was too smart for that. But I've never felt, I know that you're going to think this is crazy, I've never felt more loved in my life. That a complete stranger made me feel so welcome that it was no longer awkward. I didn't have to sneak in and hide. I knew that this was a place with people that would love me. And I've tried ever since to figure out how to become a person like that. And I'm not sure I am. Well, you know me. Maybe I'm not. But I've tried, I swear. And I just want to say that thank you to so many who have been welcoming to me in the time that I've attended here. I've become good friends with Marion and Dallas. I loved Jack and Ruby before they passed. I loved Edna so much. And I'm just so thankful to have found a place where people loved me until I was able to find Christ. And I'm wearing a shirt. I don't know if you can read it, but it's from the Chosen series. And it says, I was one way, and now I'm completely different. And what happened in between was him. I used to think I was a good person. Now I know I was lost. I was broken, and I was full of sin. And now I'm forgiven. And I love you all. And I'm so thankful to be friends with each of you. And I just hope that as you think about that, the one thing I hope you take away from that is that it's not, you don't have to be a theologian to serve Christ. And you just have to bake some cookies. You just have to care about somebody else's life just for a minute, just enough to acknowledge them. It's just those little things that love people right into God's arms. Thank you.